My mother was a fighter. I say I'm only the man I am today because of her sacrifice. I was able to, achieve some great success. I became an attorney, a police officer, and have a PhD in criminal justice. And she was standing right by my side throughout every single part, whether it was the good or the bad. I mean, I wanted to quit my PhD 100 times because it did. 6-7 years dissertation, so it never was going to end. She always said never give up. She was my best friend. Being there holding hands with your loved one, any loved one, in any disease is just something that haunts me even today. Holding her hand, not being able to tell her when there's going to be a cure. She has 3 grandchildren, and she kept saying she's going to keep fighting, so one day she could be there for their wedding and their big moments in life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Motion of Gratitude podcast. It has truly been such a pleasure to speak to the people that we've been speaking to so far in 2024, and I am so excited for the conversation that I'll be having today as well. I have another special guest for you. So this is actually the first time that I'm connecting with somebody that I don't have a past relationship with, and this guest, it's just been an honor to get to know him. He connected with me through social media, and we just had a chance to have a real conversation. And I'm just, one, so grateful that he reached out, and two, just when we speak about the idea of not going through the motions in your life, this is a human who has really taken a path that is so dedicated to a mission and a purpose. And it's just an honor to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him today. So I want to introduce you all to Dr. George Ackerman. George, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for your time. And like I said earlier, I feel like we're already family because I'm really motivated and amazed and inspired by all your work and seeing you almost every day on social media. You're really making an incredible impact. And that's why I would have the honor and thank you and your listeners, followers, for letting me have this time, because the goal is, we'll get to it, about Parkinson's disease awareness. But my goal is to reach those who are not just in the Parkinson's disease community, but everyone outside, because we're all family in this fight. And if we don't have everybody's support, we're going to be further away from a cure. My goal is that we aren't, and that we can find a cure very soon.
Absolutely. And I think, so much of that message. So as George mentioned, what we're really here to talk about today is George started an organization called Together for Sharon. So Sharon was George's mother who passed away. I believe it was 2020, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Like 1/1/2020. It's so odd, even the date. It's ironic.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, she was only 69, which is really the most tragic part, because in 2024, I feel the technology and advancements in the world that we should be living well beyond that.
Yes. So that's really a lot of the conversation today is, so as you talked about, there's the Parkinson's community, but I think so much of probably the listeners aren't here might fall into the caregiver category, the people who are supporting people who have Parkinson's. And so or they might start to see signs or something that might open them up to this that they don't understand. So I would love if you could share your story, talk about what really began the passion and the purpose behind Together for Sharon, and just the message around Parkinson's awareness and the hope for the cure and the direction that you are going.
Sure, I really appreciate it. Again, my mother had Parkinson's for around 15 years. I only really became highly involved the last 4. I'm still not sure to this day. I wish I could go back and ask her, did she really understand what it was? Maybe the doctors didn't know, because they do say you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it. But in her case, she had no other illnesses. She was very healthy, actually. So that, and also the other question for her would have been, is she kind of, ashamed? And I think a lot of the problem with this disease is it's one that is so debilitating. It's a neurological disorder of the brain. So, it slows down. Our goal with exercise and things that we're learning today is you want to slow that progression down. When my mother was going through, we didn't know that. It was still, fairly new, not a lot of research, and it's just the process just sped up too fast for us to even stop it. There is no cure today. But again, we'll get into what's happening. Some history has been made since we spoke, which is incredible.
Really?
But it's a movement disorder of the nervous system and gets worse, sadly, over time. But the thing that's interesting is it's very unique. So what happened to my mother is completely different than what could happen to someone else with Parkinson. And that's why it's so complicated in some point. Some of the symptoms, you'll see Michael J. Fox, a very famous actor from Canada, Back to the Future, can go off all his movies. He's a great, I love him. And, but, there's tremors. My mother had internal, so you might not see it, but with Michael J. Fox, you'll see a lot of tremors where you're moving uncontrollably. Also things like rigidity, like muscle stiffness, and that's the one thing my mother had. She had trouble with her left arm only. That was the only visible sign for a while. So she kind of continued on in life. She was very independent. She lived alone, able to drive, shop, have a life with her friends. And as it got towards, the end, all that changed overnight. So, and then also there's bradykinesia and postural instability, where it's just trouble really being able to in control of your own, even stomach, some points due to medicine. So those are some of the signs that you might see. Still very, very difficult. My mother, again, was a fighter. I say I'm only the man I am today because of her sacrifice. I was able to, achieve some great success. I became a attorney, a police officer, and have a PhD in criminal justice. And she was standing right by my side throughout every single part, whether it was the good or the bad. I mean, I wanted to quit my PhD 100 times because it took 7 years, dissertation, so it never was going to end. She always said never give up. So she was my best friend. Luckily today I have still support my wife, but being there holding hands with your loved one, any loved one, in any disease is just something that haunts me even today. Holding her hand, not being able to tell her when there's going to be a cure. She has 3 grandchildren, and she kept saying she's going to keep fighting. So one day she could be there for their wedding and their big moments in life. And that's the part that pushes me to keep advocating, because it's too late for our family, but it's not for so many others.
It takes so much heart and passion and purpose to keep somebody's legacy alive. And just even the brief conversations that we've had, you can feel it. I can feel it in you. I can feel the love and the genuine purpose in what it is that you're doing, and the way that you're getting the message out, and the way that you're really helping those, as you said, it's not something now that's immediately impacting your family, but how can you then support the families now that are experiencing this? So one, it's just such a gift to meet somebody that has that purpose and that passion. So one, thank you for continuing to show up and to really move in that direction and create that space for families who feel like they are going at it alone. Because like you said, if it is so unique, there's probably a lot of maybe confusion or a lot in the process that's not clear. So if there is somebody, so you mentioned your mom had like internal tremors. So are there early signs, or is there something that somebody can start to see like moving in that direction? Or is it really a later diagnosis that is made?
That's the problem, is that they have specific tests, so you'll go see a specific doctor, a movement disorder specialist for Parkinson.
Okay.
I'm not a medical doctor, but I recommend, but the problem, I even have a lot of back issues. I've had 2 major fusions, and I don't think they work. Somebody I did a podcast with on mine said maybe I have Parkinson's. I don't know if that's, scary, because we don't know if it's, genetic. They don't have a lot of study. They don't know. I don't know why there's a hand up there. But
that's been a new thing.
One time I did that and the balloon started, and it was perfect time. It actually was a great moment, but I won't move my hand. I don't even know if I can move my mouth, but there's a lot of issues. So again, the person might again start feeling like rigidity, like they're having trouble moving. They might start feeling that the tremors. They might have, my mother also had dyskinesia and dystonia with the curling of your toes. So there are a few signs that you definitely want to get it checked out. But this usually the way the medical issue works, because I've been through a lot of research. They don't actually test for Parkinson's. They try to get rid of all the other disorders. And if you don't have those, then it's likely Parkinson's. So you can see, still very tricky. There are other issues which we can get into that people are misdiagnosed, which is a big problem. There's also individuals, again, who, show signs of Parkinson's, but it's not Parkinson's. It's called Parkinsonian. So that's where they'll have one or two issues like Parkinson's, but they don't have Parkinson's. These things are all important to talk about because you don't want to be prescribed the wrong medicines. I remember when my mother passed, sadly, I had to take care of all of her affairs, and I'm writing a book now, and I actually just wrote a chapter called The Aftermath, and that's afterwards. And I remember throwing 4 huge garbage bags, black ones, of medicines, and I'm like, there's no way this was healthy, even if she had Parkinson's and other issues. That those kind of things definitely don't help. Medicines. I mean, sometimes you want them to, but they have after effects. And again, it just every time I talk, I could think of so many more important topics that it causes. Also, stomach issues. My mother had major issues that kept her a lot of the time awake 24/7. And so there's other things that use signs. But if you do have someone out there who's even curious, it's very important to check. Now, they did finally make a historic movement in scientific studies. Last year they came up with something called a biomarker. Again, I'm not a researcher or scientist, but now I believe you can actually, it seems painful. They have a needle they can put in your back, spine, and it might be able to come back with the results if you have Parkinson's enough. And That's important to catch early because, again, you can treat it more efficiently and effective rather than waiting till it's, elderly ages or stages. And also there's a lot of knowledge now that, this is called early onset Parkinson. There's people like Michael J. Fox, age 30 or 40, getting it, and it's really changing their lives, unfortunately. But if they, are able to fight it through boxing, through fitness, through eating and diet, they're going to live a much longer life. And again, it's not like my mother story is the same for everyone. There are people I've interviewed too that are still kicking and doing great things, marathons, age 80. So this is a sad story, but it's one that I want everyone to leave on a positive note. And even though my family's gone through hell, literally, and I don't have my best friend next to me anymore at dinner, at holidays, there's still some of the relationships like ours and the people I've met are just so inspiring that I'm grateful for that.
And so some of that you actually mentioned in that last explanation, but that was one of my questions. So it sounds like there can be early onset. There's not necessarily one thing in particular that will lead somebody to find out, because it sounds like you said, they kind of get rid of all the other diagnoses, and then it seems to be that Parkinson's is what's left. So you mentioned diet and exercise. Do they talk at all, or do doctors kind of emphasize a lifestyle choice that can be supportive to preventative to Parkinson's, or once you have Parkinson's, something that can really support, somebody's body who's already experiencing that disease?
Yeah, they really have a lot of advancements, which is great to see. Unfortunately, again, it was too late for us and my mother. But, like I said, it progresses slowly. Could also affect daily routines, but even socializing with friends. I mean, again, I don't get too deep into it, but my mother's own friends kind of vanished towards the end, which was really sad, because sometimes we think they might not know how to, help, and they don't want to see her like that. So that was sad. Also, she used to be, again, very independent, but she went over just a few years at the end from walking many miles to the cane. Then after a year or two, cane to the walker, from the walker to the wheelchair, and then bed bound. Now, what happened with my mother, unfortunately, we tried everything. We tried licensed medical marijuana, which was in and of itself a story, because I'm a cop. So we got the real license in Florida, which you're allowed, but I was scared to walk in with video cameras. Luckily, they were supportive. But that's a James Bond or Mission Impossible type story. But so that's one thing. But unfortunately, we went to therapists, we went to doctors, this, that, and I don't regret anything because there was nothing left. So, but one thing is, she went to do a special study at a school, and I don't know and I don't blame them or the doctors, because they were just trying to help, but they might have changed her medication too drastically. So she came home one night 4 years before she passed, and that was the night I had to take over her life, because she ended up, she also had late onset dementia. But I found her at 4 a.m. in front of her house, moving her furniture out of her house because she thought someone was inside going to harm her. And that's when, again, I had to rush her to the hospital. they said we saved her life. Part of me thinks it didn't because she was so bad after that. But obviously it was, it's kind of weird. You're struggling with your inner self, like, do we keep pushing her through this or do we not? Obviously, Florida also doesn't have Death with Dignity Act, which is something I'm not happy about, because the last 7 days of my mother's life, she just lay there with a heartbeat but nothing, and no ability to do anything else. But so I rushed her to the hospital that night, and I talk about this more in depth in my book that's coming soon. But so it wasn't even that she was sick, but when I went back I brought her to the hospital, I went back to get some things for her, and her whole room was surrounded by Post-it notes, what you and I write notes like I have a podcast today. Well, she didn't have that. She wrote names of people who were not alive and dogs and animals because she didn't know if they were there in the room or not. And that's some of the signs of, dementia, hallucinations and delusions. And those are again, very tough to deal with. As a police officer, she had a weapon. I had to take that out. As we progressed even worse, she had to have the phone removed because she called the police because she was in fear of her safety from the caretaker. So these are just, again, some of the tough things as a caretaker I had to go through. I was really alone. My wife was incredible support, but she also had to take care of my children. But I was there, hand in hand with her, like unlike anyone else could be. And it was just really tough.
It's heartbreaking to think about those phases of life and think about, being a son and having to provide that support to a mother, knowing how you wouldn't change it for the world, but thinking about switching roles, like you're saying, kind of moving into that caretaker and how to, kind of be in that, focusing on your mother and also focusing on your internal self to make sure you're feeling supported and taking care of yourself as well. And I can only imagine what it takes to be able to do that and to still be here and still, continuing that message is just so powerful. And so as you build out Together for Sharon, help people understand what that is and what really you're looking to do.
These changes like in life and, your mother, loved one, is very difficult to accept. So I decided it was a disaster. Like, imagine papers all over the place or, just something really, you're not trained to be a caretaker. You're just thrown into it. Like they say when you become a lawyer, you're just thrown into court or police or thrown into the field or any field, or a medical doctor thrown into the ER. So I just I couldn't find help. I wanted advice, someone maybe like me I wish I had met, I didn't. So I learned about a lot of resources, a lot of people, a lot of foundations, and I started togetherforsharon.com. It's just me, it's not an actual organization. I didn't want it to be a foundation. I wanted to just be from me, which is a son who lost a loved one, a mother, their best friend, and just to keep her memory alive. And what I found is it's now become not just about our journey, but about others. So what I did is, if you go there, you'll see partnerships. I've been able to work with 20, 30 of the biggest organizations around the world, from Michael J. Fox Foundation to the Parkinson Foundation to the American Parkinson's Disease Association, also Drive for a Cure and Power Over Parkinson's. These are organizations that we support, so we do not accept money. It's always amazing that I'm getting looked at like if you can make a funny, baffling look, people look at me like I'm crazy because I don't want anything. It's like sad. I love your show title because gratitude. I mean, I'm grateful for being able to be with you today, but also all the people that have inspired me, and I don't want anything. Like, I have to say it over. I mean, in 2024, to be able to do good things for people and not want anything, sadly, still shocks people. But we don't accept money, so we recommend people go to any organization that's out there that's real. As a lawyer and cop, I just want to make sure they're donating to the legal and legitimate things. So we've donated over about $13,000 of our own money to organizations like those. We specifically took the American Parkinson's Disease Association because when I was going through this chaos with my mother, they actually showed up in our house. It was too late they had a lot of programs like exercise, it was too late, but just knowing that they were the ones who showed up meant a lot to me. So that's why we've chosen, some of them. But now I've learned about others and we form partnerships with others. So there are, I don't like saying just do this. I like people to have freedom to do what they want. So on the website, again, we have resources. We have podcasts like the one we're doing now that'll be up there eventually. And also it has our story. It has our journey. But one of my favorite things is every morning. So 3-4 months ago, last year, about January, October, I just found out there's something called the World Parkinson Congress, and I didn't even know about this. So there's about 1 million people in the U.S. with Parkinson. Sadly, it's one of the fastest growing in the nation diseases. And but I learned that there's over 10 million people around the world that have it. And I was like, what? I didn't even know that. You don't think about all these things. So what I decided is it's not just about my mother and my journey anymore. It's about everybody. So I've interviewed over 450 people and organizations, people who've been diagnosed, people who just have caretakers, people who have foundations like Michael J. Fox, also some celebrities, and just great people. And I've put it on the website. It's all free. I do it for free. Even those people were shocked that I'm, because it's always like, there's a catch. There's no catch. So I just want to, like every morning I wake up, I don't know if you can see this, but this is Richard Underwood, and he has something called Rickety Warrior. He has Parkinson, but you just click on his picture and it has his whole journey. And again, it's all free. So, every morning I wake up, I just get a little butterfly in my heart and my stomach, how excited I am to share their journeys. And I always say the only journey that I don't know about is the one that breaks my heart, because there's people out there doing great things and they need to be, we need more awareness. So that's really one of the things. And we're going to be releasing those in 2 books in the future. It'll be all their journeys around the world, and it's all just for awareness. I don't even care about the money. I don't want the money. Probably donate it, to be honest, a lot of it. And those are just some of the things that are on the website. And again, it's really just a place where I took all the stuff all over the place and put it in one nice, neat place for others to read. And I don't want people to do this, which is nice, but someone once wrote me recently, said, George, I spent 10 hours on your website. I'm like, it's great, but, I didn't mean them to do that. But it's really, nice. And even on LinkedIn, I've had over 8,000 people visit us. I've had just amazing. This was about me and my mother. I thought 10 people would be interested, and now it's just kind of becoming like 30,000 people and here and there. And again, without your audience and your time, we wouldn't be what we are, because my goal is now to reach outside just the Parkinson's community. Because as we might get to, the national plan to end Parkinson's disease is really part of history, and that's happening right now as we speak.
Wow, and I think the reason, like you said, in 2024, it is hard to find people who are just here trying to help, and it's it's everybody's kind of like, okay, now what's next? And the fact that you've created those resources and someone has a place to go, that in of itself is making, even if it's one person, feel less lonely. But obviously it's thousands. And the fact that there are, like you said, 1 million people in the US and 10 million worldwide, like that, there are people that feel just like you in that space, who are looking for that support. And I think in the world that we live in now, that connection and that community is the most powerful thing that we have. And if we can find that feeling of connection, to feel like, wow, I'm not alone in this journey, there's just nothing more powerful. So that's so helpful to understand that all those resources are there. Because I think, like you're saying, you had to kind of pull it all together. And in that process, you had to learn a lot, you had to dig through a lot. And for somebody to just be able to go to your website, find those resources and feel supported is such a gift. And it's that in and of itself is so powerful. And it's beautiful that's what that space has become. And so a lot of my thought now is, you've created this beautiful message for your mother and this beautiful remembrance of your mother. And we've talked a little bit about it, but you don't always share your story because we're going to give some time to it today because I think so much of the people who listen to this podcast, they resonate with you as the caregiver. You're a lot of stay-at-home moms, kind of like you said, you're thrown in with the fire. You're not given a playbook. You're not given an understanding of how any of it's going to work. And you're on your own. You're really, making choices on your own. And I think from a caregiver perspective, there's also a lot of people who are in that place of really supporting their parents. And I would love if you're open to it, kind of sharing the perspective as the caregiver. I know you've shared little pieces of it being incredibly intense and changing your whole world. And I would love to honor that place for you, because I think you've given so much love and compassion and purpose to your mother. I think a moment of honoring you as the caretaker and the ongoing messenger, it's just such a beautiful thing. So is there anything from your caregiver journey that you would love to share with other caregivers, or anything that you learned, or anything that's on your heart from the caregiver's perspective that you would want to share with other caregivers in your similar position?
I'm excited because this year I'm hoping, I'm jinxing, I was told not to talk about it, but I'll be releasing my first book, and it's actually in memory of my mother, and it's about my journey and hers, but about as a caregiver. And I don't tell a lot of people, but I write a little, but I had a journal for the last year of her life, and I wrote down when I was mad, I wrote it down. When I was sad, I wrote it down. When I was screaming, I wrote it down. When I was happy, yes. We had this little moments when she was happy, and then everything written down. I took that and turned it into a book, and again, it'll be about her life, mine, and all that. But I went through being burnt out. Even now, today, I still feel that way, because I just want the word out there, and I don't want to. I made so many friends who have Parkinson now, and I still can get it, and anyone can get it. So I don't want to rest, because I feel like I need to keep pushing this. Then I'm some days I'm just, burnt, but I feel like I had stress, no one to turn to. I felt very sad. Also not knowing when your mother is going to pass away. I pulled a doctor in an office once. I'm 6'2", 200-pound police. I didn't mean to intimidate him, but I said, look, doc, is she going to live? And he couldn't say. So these are it's horrible. So, again, I cherish the teeny little moments that I could take her away from thinking about the disease. My mother loves her 3 grandkids. She used to love Sundays where she would blow bubbles in the backyard with them, and we even bought her a new home to be closer to us. And I always dreamt for 10 years she'd be able to sit on the little man-made lake, just relax in her retirement. And then we bought a new house, which is, nice, and there's a room here for her, and she never made it. So even today it haunts me that, so these are the things as a caretaker. The worst feeling, though, is not being able to find a cure, not being able to find the right answer to tell your mother. I never lied to her. I never just told her the wrong truth. I just said I don't know, and I couldn't answer some things which were tough. But sometimes we didn't have time to think about the future because there was so much going on in the moment, because every day there was another thing, whether it was dementia, Parkinson's. She also had fibromyalgia, so she had pain in her back. She had dystonia, which was the curling of the toes. She had, a lot of things, and her health was excellent except for that. But when she came back from that trip, that day, her health just she was, in shape, good diet, good health, and had some muscle and fat, which was healthy on her. But then her health just went down. She kept getting skinnier and skinnier, and it was horrible. I made her drink Ensure and be healthy. Finally, we got to a point then that said, you know what? I won't curse on your show, but forget it. Something with an F. And I just started buying her everything. She wanted chocolate cake. She got chocolate cake. I just didn't care because I want her to gain weight. But it was just, something very tough. And also I just was shocked. I was asked to speak at a male caregiver event. I'm like, wait a minute. I can't believe that this is rare. It seems that there's an epidemic with males either wanting to speak out or just telling their story, which in a way it's good for me because I'm the only one, but in a way it's sad because I think more people should never be ashamed. I don't care if I'm a guy or man, blah, blah, blah. I do guy things like basketball is my life, and I'm not a drinker and all that, but, I get along with everyone. But I was a mama's boy, and I'm proud of it. Yes. I had a shirt one day. I'm going to make one. But, again, I turned to her for advice. She was always the most reliable person because anytime I need something, she was there, that. I hope to be able to do that for my kids. But as a caretaker, to finish up, you go through some terrible things that I hope no one else ever has to. But it's almost like the darkest moments. You hope for the shining light at the end of the tunnel, but it really never came for us.
Well, George, the first thought that comes to my mind is I hear you speak, and I have a feeling if any of the listeners could speak to you directly, it would say that I hope you know that you've already made a difference. And as you keep moving forward and talk about how you have all these things moving, and know that the impact that you've already made has already impacted thousands of people. And that seed that you planted has now spread, and you are the catalyst of all of that. So I'm sure you don't always hear it, and I'm sure that there's not always space to slow down to think about it. But I hope you know that you have made a difference, and every conversation that you're having is so impactful. And if you burn yourself out and you're not here, then you're not going to be able to keep that message going.
I just got ankle surgery, and I told you it's odd that I was not happy, but I actually had more time to post. It's not good. Yeah, there's a lot of. The great thing is, again, even though some of it's sad, negative, I always bring the positive. I met some amazing people, and the things that are coming are bigger than me. I mean, I was just a guy trying to share my mother's journey. It's become overwhelming. I don't know why my schedule is completely booked almost at the end of the year. My wife gets mad because I'm spending, a little too much time with this and with my own kids. But I think it's such an important message, even for my children. I always say to my daughter, she's 11, will you continue together for Sharon on? But then I stop myself and say, you know what, I don't want her to, because I want to be a cure before then. So, that's the goal. And again, I was sitting here, we're going through history, and just December, it was the best Hanukkah, it was the best Christmas present, it was the best every holiday present. They finally, after many, many years of deliberating and pushing for it, some of our incredible House of Representatives, including yours and many states, just passed the first law into legislation called the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease. It was spearheaded by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And now as we sit here in January 2024, it's going to the Senate. So my two senators, Rubio and Rick Scott, have approved, and I'm going to continue to reach out to them to get the others to join us. I was trying to get a podcast with them, but they're pretty busy. I'm not going to give up on that. Yeah. But I was lucky enough to have a representative from New York, Paul Tonko. It's on my website. I did a little interview with him. He was one of the sponsors, too, of the bill. And basically what the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease is, first bill in U.S. history, which is really, in a way, sickening, shocking, but, exciting. But the first bill that's going to dramatically increase federal funding to research Parkinson's disease, to develop more effective pathways for treatment and cures, to improve an early diagnosis, as we discussed, to also spark new and improved models for patient care, to create standards and measures to prevent PD, address health disparities in diagnosis, treatment, and clinical trial participation, and finally, like we're trying to do today, enhance public awareness of the disease. And again, I'm still in shock that there's nothing for Parkinson's disease at all in the United States. And what I'm hoping is once this does pass, I hope to be there when it does, and maybe even be there when the president signs it, whoever at the point is. But, I'm hoping other states and countries, countries like Canada, England, and things will all join in and adopt the same or similar law in their state, countries. Now, I didn't mention, which I should have, my interviews, the 450 or whatever number that I will be releasing in the future in a book on my website for free, that's not just with people in the U.S. I've actually had the honor to speak to people from England, Australia, Iceland, France, Spain, Italy, Australia mentioned, and Africa. And I think we've hit every single country, because I can't believe Parkinson's is an epidemic in those countries. I bring up Africa a lot because the stigma is horrible. They think if you have Parkinson's that it's witchcraft, which is wrong. And that's actually, it's deterring the ability to get, funding, the ability to, I interviewed one gentleman who's a hero of mine. He actually had his mother put away somewhere in Africa where she wasn't allowed to be with other people. So he had to escape and go visit her because they thought she had, a witchcraft. It's not, I don't get mad at people. I just think the lack of knowledge is a problem. And that's what leads me to many other things that if we get time I'll talk about. But it's just a lack of knowledge, and just us talking today, like you said, if we could just reach one person who doesn't know what Parkinson's is, then we've done an incredible thing. And I never read comments on, on social media, because sadly a lot of times they're negative. But Michael J. Fox released the first movie ever last year. I recommend it for everyone. It's on my website, but where he talked about how he was ashamed and didn't want to talk about the disease. Finally, he decided to become one of the most, impressive, impactful advocates in the world. And I have the honor on February 2nd to meeting him. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting, and I'll be putting that picture up everywhere. But he's a hero. I mean, it's really a comic thing for Back to the Future. I'm turning it into a Parkinson's awareness, because no offense, I love Back to the Future, but it's not why I'm going and driving 4 hours. So that's going to be a really amazing experience I'll share with everyone. But again, we need more awareness. But anyway, in the comments, I quickly saw somebody said, I want to just thank you. I never heard of Parkinson's, and look at that. So he's changed the world again for the better. But we have to keep pushing. We have to keep fighting. And now, again, because it's history, not only you, me, but all your listeners can contact their senators. It's a lot easier than representatives because there's so many. You only have, a few senators, one or two, your whole state, usually two, and, reach out, contact them, tell them you want to support and you want them to help pass this bill. It's bipartisan, which is rare because you're not going to see people fighting over it. Out of like 400 and something representatives, only 3 or 4 didn't vote for the bill. To this day, I wanted to, part of me, I don't have the time, but I wanted to write to them and say, what are you doing? Like, why would you, there's no reason. Anyone can get it, a Republican, Independent, yes, Democrat, other party. So that was really, over 400 people voted for it. It was, crushed it. And I hope the same thing happens in the Senate. That's so exciting. And you said that just happened in the last couple of months. Did you say? December, just last month. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, it is so interesting that that's the first time that there's anything related to Parkinson's. But like you said, at the same time, it's exciting that it's now on the radar and it's now getting the attention and the focus. And you're right. I think a lot of the times it is bringing awareness to something that people aren't aware of, because if it's not in their day-to-day life, they're in their own bubble of whatever's happening in their experience. So to be able to, the way that you're going about speaking to it, being on podcasts, kind of sharing that awareness, it's just literally creating an opportunity for people to say, wow, I've never heard of it, or I've heard of it but never understood it, and just creating more of an opportunity to have conversation around it. So only sad thing about that is I'm hoping it's not coming to the forefront because more people badly are getting it. Because I know this one senator, Wexler, I believe, she's amazing. She actually just had to retire as a House of Representatives because of Parkinson's disease, and that's frightening when that's that crippling. And she's younger, probably, I don't know the age, but the 56, 40, 50s maybe. And Gus Bilirakis, he's the actual one of the sponsors, and he lost his brother from the disease, and they renamed the bill now actually just in December after his brother and after that congresswoman. So that's my fear. Is sadly, that's great, we're getting it out there, but more people are being taken daily, like my mother, and that's why we got this. The Michael J. Fox Foundation spearheaded this. They allowed me, and I have it on my website. My speech is 3 minutes to my representative to get it passed. But it's just it's urgent. That's the big word. It's urgency. We can't all just wait till this. We all have to get involved. So, for anybody listening, if they want to get involved, the best way to go about that would be to go directly to a senator instead of a representative. Right. Yeah, the representatives are still amazing, but it's passed, so it moves up to the last step. I mean, literally in 2024, it should pass. I can't imagine unless we have some horrible other thing going on, but even then it would still go through, and then the president just signs into law, and that's it. So it's history. And again, I'm working closely with them. I'm interviewing somebody who's spearheading. They have their own policy office, dealing more with the politics and gets very political. Luckily, my background as a lawyer and law enforcement helps a lot with public. I'm also a professor. I teach public policy. So there's a lot, but anyone could do it. This is a cool thing. Again, I mean, anyone could get involved. Now, usually if we meet in a year or two, I might not be able to say. I might just go through what we're doing. I might say you can go to my website, but I can't say you can get a part of history. You can actually be a part of history. Oh. So as people are really listening to this and hearing the message around
one, around Together for Sharon, if they're looking for resources for themselves or people that they know, that they can go there and really gather these resources, find the support that they need, whether for themselves or somebody that they're taking care of, and also learning about the bill and reaching out to their senators. What is really the one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation as we just really talk about Parkinson's, talk about Together for Sharon, and what's the one thing that you would want people to really take with them as they move about their day after listening to the podcast?
Funny you say that. I feel like, but wait, there's more. No, I'm kidding. I have a little thing I say, but before, first I want to thank you and your audience. I mean, we've known each other a little time, but like I said, I follow you. I love the professionalism. And also, I like your podcast, not just because I'm on it. Because it really, I don't know if it's because you film it the right way or it's really so on close and person. But the gratitude is something I think we need more of in our country. You know, the thanks, the admiration, and really just the teamwork. Everyone's a team. Some other things besides, I don't know how you could top meeting Michael J. Fox. So I should probably end it there. But I'm on the walk committee. We participate in the Parkinson's Foundation walk every year. We also participate, I'm on the committee, I don't know how I'm getting involved with all this, but also the American Parkinson's Disease Association walk committee. And I love those because you get a lot of my stuff, like, is virtual, but I love being there live. One funny story is we have a table and I just pass out bands in her memory, my mother, and we're in the middle of all the pharmaceutical companies selling stuff. So sometimes people are shy and don't want to come up to me because they think I'm selling something. I had one gentleman who was in a wheelchair came over with his wife, and they start crying and thanking me, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps me going. And he was a veteran, so I love the service.
Oh, beautiful.
So, I do walk, so we are out there in the community. The book is coming, so I can't say much. Also, like I just started, I have a podcast with, the first time in my opinion, history, I like to say that, it could be completely wrong, so don't quote me, where I bring together someone like me, a caretaker, with people who have Parkinson's, and we just talk. So once a month, it's just really amazing because you get to hear both sides, and I don't see that. You might have someone with just caretaker, someone with but I've never seen them bring them together. The bill is very important to me. And then the last thing, I'm a weird kind of state right now. I don't have Parkinson's, and my mother passed, so I'm not someone caring for someone living with Parkinson's. So I was really honored to have an opportunity with a group called PSP Awareness. It's a big organization. They reach out to me and, we wanted to do something. I didn't know what to do. But I decided, why don't we start a support group for everybody who's lost a loved one due to any disease. So we're starting next month, and they're completely free. You can sign up virtually. It's all virtual. It's very confidential, private. It will not be recorded. So it's just, a place like this where we can all get together and tell our story and realize that there are other people like you out there. And again, I want people out there who, lost a loved one due to cancer, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, there's so many illnesses, and you're all welcome. It's free again, but this is not just for Parkinson's, but really there is nothing for me out there. I went to many support groups. I didn't say a word because they were talking about, their caregivers are alive, their loved one. I don't want to tell them about, end of life and living and wills. And so now we have that, and that's starting for the first time in February. But, there's a lot of good things going, but usually I like to leave everyone with just this. We love you, we support you, and we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I will advocate for you, and along, of course, you too. But we'll advocate for you, and together our voices are just so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, and I'm really not. I just feel
you're deep in it.
I feel like every day there's something new, and as we speak, something's changing, and I'm hoping someday, as I'm on a live podcast, that we find a cure. And again, if you have time, I'm always available. Togetherforsharon.com is really just me. Some people are shocked. They think, oh, there's a big corporation. No, it's just me and just a son who, again, lost their loved one, best friend, my mother, and their journey continues, It's not going to ever end, and if I could just have my mother remembered forever, that's my dream come true, plus find a cure so others never have to go through what we did. And again, I'm grateful for your time and friendship, and hope that, like I said before, this is not just about one podcast. See you later. I'm going to share forever, And again, I hope you'll come online someday and share your journey, because everybody's got a journey. It's the ones, again, that aren't shared that, again, breaks my heart. But to leave on a good note, again, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop till we find a cure, and thank you.
George, thank you so much. It lights me up to have this conversation, to meet you, and to feel your purpose, to feel your passion and the dedication and just the openness. Like you're open to supporting in different places and allowing things to unfold. And I can't wait for the day that I hear that there's a cure for Parkinson's, and to think of you. Like, because of this conversation today, I would think of you and the people that you've impacted, and you are just living your life from this place of purpose. And it's so inspiring. And I am just so grateful, one, that you reached out. I'm grateful that we've been able to have this conversation, and I'm grateful to be able to share this with everybody that's listening. We will make sure all of your information is in the show notes. I would love to get the information on the support group, because I can think of so many people that would be beneficial for, like you're talking about, all of the logistics of everything, that there's really not this place to go, and to be able to know that you have other people that you can have those conversations with is just so powerful. So we'll make sure that we get all that information from you as well, so that we can truly share that. And I am just, again, so honored, so grateful for this time together. And I hope that this is the beginning of multiple conversations, because I look forward to staying up to date on everything that's going on, and all the pieces that you're a part of. It's truly an honor to be on this journey with you.
I'm grateful, and the saddest part is always saying goodbye for now.
That's right. Goodbye for now. Yes, it's truly been such a gift, and for anybody that's listening, this is your reminder that there is more to life than going through the motions. Live your life every single day. Find the purpose, find the passion, find what lights you up, and even if it is something that comes from a place of sadness. I think of George as this beautiful example of somebody that's turned this darkness into light, and he's finding ways in which to provide light to others. So if you find yourself in that place where you can't yet see the light, maybe it's an opportunity for you to be it, and maybe it's an opportunity for you to plant that seed. So I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. I hope it shed some light on, maybe this is an experience that you're having in your own life. Maybe you're a caregiver and you feel less alone just hearing this conversation with George. So thank you for being here today. And we will make sure that you get every bit of information that we could share from George and Together for Sharon. And I thank you all for being here. George, thank you again for being here. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.